The NBA has just announced their Christmas games for this year. So they have picked 5 games to show on TV. I believe all of them are going to be on ESPN or ABC. So here are the 5 games: Golden State versus Memphis Grizzlies, Mavericks versus Lakers, Nuggets versus Suns, Knicks versus 76ers, Celtics versus Bucks. Surprisingly, I have to say, 4 out of these 5 games actually sound very intriguing. They seem like good matchups that you would want to watch. The only game that is not interesting or has any intrigue, which is not surprising, is the Knicks versus the 76ers. They had to put the Knicks on Christmas when they're not worthy of being on Christmas. I get it. I get it from a business standpoint, but it still sucks to see the Knicks on Christmas, especially against a good playoff team like the 76ers. This is a very lopsided matchup. Granted, you never know. Maybe it'll turn out to be an interesting game, but I wish they could have put some other team on there. I can't think of anything on the top of my head, but I'm sure if I had a few minutes to think about it, I could name a better matchup that people would actually want to watch. So it's just kind of like mind-boggling. They picked them to be on Christmas, but the other matchups are very good. Celtics versus Bucks, I think will be a very good matchup simply because the Bucks probably feel that they would have been the Celtics in the playoffs if Chris Middleton didn't get injured. And the Celtics, obviously, there's probably some question marks in the back of their head if they're really a championship team after losing to the Warriors and also beating the Bucks without Middleton last year. Like, are they for real? So I'm sure that is going through their mind. I think that's going to be a very good game. The series between both of these teams was very good last year. Maybe one of the best playoff series in the playoffs when you compare the other series. It might have been the best one, actually. Nuggets versus Suns. I think this could be a good matchup, too. I think if the Nuggets are healthy, I'm hoping and crossing my fingers they're healthy because they haven't been healthy for nearly 2 years now. But if Michael Porter Jr. is healthy and Jamal Murray's there and Jokic is there versus the Suns, I think this will be a pretty good game because I think the Nuggets probably feel about in the 2021 playoffs that they would have beaten the Suns if they had their full team, and the Suns are probably looking to reestablish their dominance over the West after what happened this year, their disappointing finish against the Mavericks. I think this will be a good matchup. I think Jokic would want to prove something to the Suns after they've owned him last year in the playoffs. Well, specifically in 2021 in the playoffs. So I think that'll be a good matchup. Mavericks versus the Lakers. Granted, I don't see the Lakers as a contender. The Mavericks, it could be very iffy the way their season goes. I think Doncic is going to have to take his game to another level for them to be as good as they were last year, but they could possibly be as good as they were last year, even though they lost Jalen Brunson. I was going to say Bumson. I'm Freudian slip. At times I do think he's a bum, but maybe he'll be a very good player. Just joking about Brunson. But I think the Mavericks, to get back at what they were last year, they're going to need a player to rise up to make up for the production they lost by losing Jalen Brunson. I just want to look up this one guy's name. What's his name? It just slips my mind. Christian Wood. So Christian Wood was a solid player that the Mavericks picked up. He's been a very solid player. I think Christian Wood will have to step up for the Mavericks to be as good as they were last year. I just want to look up his numbers for this year. I'm just curious what he produced in the last season. I'm just looking up Christian Wood's season. So last year for the Rockets, Christian Wood was pretty good. 17.9 points on 50% shooting, and he got 10 boards. So I think he will have a good year with the Mavericks playing with Doncic. Doncic should be able to make this guy look even better. So it'll be interesting, but I think that'll be a good matchup. There's also the intrigue with Luka versus LeBron. Luka obviously idolized LeBron growing up, and that's what Stephen A. would say is a box office matchup between those two. And LeBron has an ego, so I'm sure you'd want to prove to Luka he's still king of the hill, and Luka's now the new king of the hill, at least at the small forward position that they're playing. Granted, I think Luka plays guard, but you get what I'm saying. So it's a match of the young versus the old guard, as they would say. I think that'll be a good game. And last but not least on the Christmas games, I'm going to say Golden State versus the Memphis Grizzlies. That should be a great matchup. Grizzlies have this bad blood with the Warriors from last year's playoffs. I'm sure they believe if Ja didn't get hurt, they would have won that series. Also, they suffered the suspension of Dylan Brooks when he took out Gary Payton too. I'm also sure they felt that didn't happen, things would have gone differently for them. So there's a lot of variables in that, and they also feel that they're better than the Warriors, just that they were unlucky when they played them. The Warriors obviously have this arrogance that, hey, we're still the champs and you got to prove to us that you're better. So maybe they have a rivalry forming. We can only hope they do. Just I feel the Warriors need some rivals to make the league interesting. They have never really had a rival, just the way that they've been set up. Granted, you can say the Cavs were for a brief minute, but that went out of the window once Durant joined them. So hopefully that game lives up to his billing. It has potential to be good. I also wonder if Jaren Jackson Jr. will be back by then. I hope he is. I remember hearing he had an injury. I forget what it was, but I think it was something where he would be out for several months. So we'll see. If they're at full strength, the Grizzlies versus the Warriors, I think that'll be a great matchup, and it would be must-see TV. But overall, I think the NBA did a good job of picking these matchups, and hopefully all these games live up to the hype. That's all I have to say about this.